Hello, and welcome to November's Feature of the Month. Today we're going to talk about the new dashboards that are Integrity X 25.1 and the new information that they provide. This information can give you greater insight into your BlueCat environment and where there may be performance issues lurking that need to be addressed. This can be an invaluable tool for you to help keep your system up and performant. So let's go ahead and take a look at the new dashboards and see what information they provide. When we first log in to Integrity X 25.1, we're presented with the My IPAM screen. This gives you the quick overview of how your environment is configured. You can see how your BDDSs are performing, as well as some information about your current DDI infrastructure. We're going to look at the dashboards, and we're dropped into the Address Manager. Now, as you can tell, the graphs are very improved over the 9.6 version and earlier. They are a lot more responsive. We can click and isolate data. We can also see the different CPU usage and memory usage, I/O. And again, all of these are click, so I can see only the reads. I can unclick the reads and only see the writes, and then I can add them both. And so these are a lot more useful than the previous graphs that the Address Manager generated. We can also look at information about our DDI environment, such as the number of configurations, users, views, how many DNS, DHCP servers we're managing, how many zones, resource records, and other relevant information that would be useful to a DDI admin. We can also look up the database statistics, which include the database size, how many sessions are active, when our last backup occurred, and whether regular backups are enabled. Again, we also have the graphs that show our database size and the number of active sessions. Now, in 25.1, the UI and uses the same requests as our documented APIs. There's no tricks done to speed up the UI. The same calls that are made by your APIs are the same calls made by the UI. And so we can see here an overview of how our API performance is. And as you can see, I've done a total of 187 requests with a mean API duration of 285 milliseconds and a max of 2.5 seconds. And so we can see, we can track the average duration and see what does our performance look like. Also, we can isolate the different types of API calls to see if certain API calls are giving us issues, or if it's or if there's anything else that would be concerning. Here are the API calls, over time and the average duration. We can also break out whether whether the API calls originated from the UI or from a remote session, such as like a gateway server or other API calls from outside of the BAM. As you can see, all of mine are from the UI, since that's the demo I'm giving. Again, another issue where we do see signs of BAM issues is when notifications back up. And so we make it really easy to see how is your BAM processing notifications, how many per second are being processed, and what is the size of your backlog file. And so as you can see, we can trend this over time and see, hey, over time, during these peaks, we see that the notifications stack up, but they are processing once the BAM is able to catch up. And so we don't see any issues there. We're now going to look at the BDDS. And this is one of my personal favorites because we can obviously see the CPU load, disk I/O, and all of the other stuff that we could see before. But when we look at the DNS, we can look at how many queries per second, what is our cache hit ratio, and what is our query hit ratio, and how many queries per second are we processing, who are our top queries, who is making our queries the most, what are our top clients, or what records are being queried, and who are the clients doing the most queries. We can also look at the DNS queries by opcode, whether they were queries or whether they were DDNS updates. Again, we can click out and see, okay, here's my DDNS updates. I average about 6 per second, depending on the time. And then you can also filter out the updates and just put the queries and see how many queries you're getting per second. We can also look at the type of records that are being queried, whether I want to see all my A records or my quad A's. And I can also look up how many are doing HTTPS queries. Again, these are very flexible graphs that we can make. You can add and remove information to make it much easier for you to see what you want to see. We can also look at the response codes. Again, these are things that were not available in previous versions of Integrity. And so we can look at how many no errors are we having, how many NX domains, how many serve fails have we had in the last 24 hours. In our DNS stats, again, these are all different types of query statistics that we can look at. And then this is the one that I found most interesting, is the RTT for your upstream resolvers. So you can look and see how many of my queries took longer than 1.6 seconds. Again, how many sockets are available. And that is the DNS statistics. And this provides you greater insight into what your BDDSs are up to. We can also do the same type of things for our DHCP. We can look at how many leases per second is this BDDS handing out. How many NACs is it handing out? Because that can indicate an issue. Which MAC addresses are making the most requests? And how many leases per second are we handing out? We also break out the different messages. We include it in a bar graph or a plot graph, as well as a circle graph or a pie graph. And as you can see, I've had 135 requests and 133 acts, and then different discovers, offers, informs, and releases. We also provide the same for DHCP v6. I currently don't have it running, so I don't have any graphs here. But we can also look at the notifications. We can see if we've enabled secure notifications, again, what the backlog count is, and how big is the backlog file. This shows a healthy BDDS that is easily sending notifications up to BAM, and there are no concerns here. Now, if a BDDS couldn't send up, couldn't send up notifications, we'd want to investigate that. Is there a firewall blocking the communications between the BAM and BDDS that could be causing this notifications to back up? And finally, we have an overview page, which this shows a lot of information about your whole environment in an easy to read table. As you can see, we have our BDDSs and BAMs. We can look at the memory utilization and the CPU utilization of the different boxes, what the QPS is, leases per second for V4 and V6. We can also look at the services. As you can see, most of mine are green except for the Anycast and DNSTR. I can also take these and resize the columns so that I can see the names. We can also look at the details. Now, all of my BDDSs are KVM virtual machines. So you can see the BIOS date, which is CBIOS, or the BIOS vendor, which is CBIOS. But if these were hardware versions, you would also see the BIOS version that is installed on the hardware. You can easily reference this with the Dell site to see if it needs to be updated. You would also get the serial number for your hardware listed here as well. And finally, we can look at the interfaces on the appliances. As you can see, I don't have dedicated management enabled on these BDDSs, but I do have my ETH0 as my management and my services interface. I can also scroll over and see the relevant information here. I can also see if I had iDRACs, what the iDRACs IPs are. So as you can see, the new dashboard provides a wealth of information that can help make managing your environment much easier than in the past and make the information displayed in the address manager more relevant to your needs. Thank you for joining me for November's feature of the month. I hope you enjoyed learning about the new IntegrityX dashboards and how they can help you manage your BlueCat environment. We went over the new information that is provided and how you can use that information in your day-to-day administration. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next month.